Hi, Lawson. How are you this afternoon?
I'm wonderful, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. You are the co-founder of Barnstorm, and you are also the VFX executive producer of The Man in the High Castle.
Yes, and senior VFX supervisor as well.
Oh, excellent. You wear many hats.
Many.
So can you tell me a little bit about how you got involved with that particular project?
For The Man in the High Castle, I've been friends with the executive producers on that show for a while. We'd worked on some previous projects together, and we did some work for them during season 1 to sort of as a proof of concept for what we could bring to the show. And starting in season 2, Barnstorm became the primary visual effects vendor for that show, and I became the visual effects supervisor for it.
Okay. Now, the series is so visual. It's an absolutely gorgeous show. Can you talk a little bit about your research that you did ahead of time?
Yeah.
World War II, pictures. What did you do?
So a lot of the research originates with the production designer. The art department creates all of the physical things that you see on the show. And a lot of our work involves taking those things and extending what's beyond them, creating, what would be cost prohibitive or time prohibitive for them to create, and then also the really big things.
Yeah.
So a lot of our work starts with having conversations with, of course, the showrunners, producers, director, but also the art department, because we want to match what they've created. They do a ton of research, and then we do a ton of research ourselves. The biggest issue with visual effects is you're almost always using it to do things that are inherently unbelievable, because otherwise they would just do it practically, right? So it's an uphill battle that you fight, and for a show that is so grounded in reality, like The Man in the High Castle, you have to work extra hard because you want it to feel like history, and not just like some science fiction zaniness, right?
Exactly.
So a lot of the research we did involved looking at historical objects, reading, going on the internet. We visited real naval ships, U.S. naval ships, here in Los Angeles as a reference for the Japanese naval ships. So, for example, in World War II, all these battleships from World War II continued to be in service after the war. And they were modified and improved, and they had radar towers and missiles and helicopter pads. So you can, when you go and look at a battleship, you see how it represents technology from, a 50-year period.
Yeah.
And we took a real battleship, a Japanese battleship that was sunk during World War II, and we had to create a version of it that survived World War II. And so we said, well, if it had survived World War II, what would they have done to it? Well, we have a battleship, a real U.S. battleship that's an example of the things they would have done to it. So that's the type of research we did. We went there, we took pictures, we read books, we looked up paint swatches and everything to make sure it was all believable.
I'm always fascinated by the creative process, and I would love to hear from you, Lawson. How do you see when you're looking visually at the world? I mean, when you're thinking about things, is it, do you see a big picture, or are you always kind of like looking at the minor details that then bring in the full picture for you?
I certainly have pictures on my phone where I will walk by, a stain on the concrete and say, oh, that's something that I could use later. So there is a certain amount of sort of macro focus. My eyes are always open. My brain is always open to seeing things and saying, oh, look at the way the light's hitting that. That could be a good reference for something. Oh, look at this specific thing. We can put that on a building and make it look cool. It's a combination, but I definitely do. I'm constantly thinking about it, wherever I am, whether I'm working or not, and more often than not I'm working, but it is a thing where I try to keep conscious of what's around me, because so much of what we do is paying very close attention to things, and it's hard to know how to make a CG something when you're not conscious of what a real thing looks like.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I need to wrap up, so I have one more question
Absolutely.
for you. For people that appreciate the visual art and what you're doing out there, how can they show their appreciation? Is it visit your website, follow you on Twitter?
It's a good question. Our website is barnstormvfx.com. We're interested in people who are interested in visual effects. We have our reels there, and we are hiring. We're constantly hiring too. So for people who are interested in visual effects, I would suggest reach out to us, especially if you're in LA or in Vancouver. Reach out to us, and I'd love to talk with them.
Okay, well, we've heard it here first.
Thank you very much.